This is wild, as Jusuf Nurkic's name is under fire by fans and by the media, as he has not been the greatest player for this Suns team so far this season, and other players filling in his role at that backup big or even as a rookie big have looked better in this Suns uniform and in this Suns offense. So is it completely Jusuf Nurkic's fault, or is he having some things that are hindering him behind the scenes that are not letting him to be his best ability? We're going to be diving into all of this and exploring the best decision for the Suns in this episode in Suns Digest. Welcome back to Suns Digest, all of you guys. I'm Bruce Velez. You guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support, and CJ and I are super, super appreciative. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this team, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, though, let's dive into the video at hand and let's get into this topic. Make sure to grab a snack. And like I said in the introduction, this is not great and something that Suns fans do not want to be seeing. We saw at the beginning of the year, the Suns came out on a red hot start, winning games left and right. And Kevin Durant was one of those players at the top of the MVP race. But unfortunately for the Suns, similar to last season, the injury bug stayed in Phoenix and kept biting at some of these players as they went out and got players like Durant and Beal, as they are both sidelined with some calf injuries. And Durant is going to be reevaluated in a less than a week now at this point, and Bradley Beal is still, day to day kind of being monitored. But other players, including that as well, have been added to the block through some sporadic games. Nurkic has missed some time. Allen has missed some time. And that has not been great for the Suns as they've gone on a 4-game skid as they look to try to bounce back against a New York Knicks team tonight. But for this Suns team, one big thing and one big glaring issue that we've seen with this team is that starting center and revolving around Jusuf Nurkic. He hasn't been the best player, hasn't been the most healthiest player for this team, and is clearly a big hole for the Suns here as they've gone up against some of these other teams, and they've found some better play from their backup centers and from their rookie centers. So let's dive in and let's look at all of this. If we want to look at this courtesy of Twitter, we can see, we hit this, oops, real quick for you guys. We can see that Jusuf Nurkic in his last 3 games is playing absolutely atrocious for the Phoenix Suns here, not doing much. In his last 3 games, he's averaging 2.3 points on 5.6% from the field, 1 for 18, 0% from 3, 0 for 9, and 50% from the free throw, 5 for 10. He's shooting 5-0-50 splits on 15.8% true shooting, and his rebounding numbers and block percentage isn't great either. He's averaging around 8 rebounds. His block percentage isn't the best. And if we want to look at Nurkic's stats through the season, like I said, 9.8 rebounds is pretty solid for a big, but everywhere else is some big issues. Not doing solid and bringing in some points for this team, only around 9.5. Looking at those blocks, only 0.5. And looking at this field goal percentage and 3 points percentage through the whole season, 39% for the year, 27% from 3. A big that was said to prioritize his 3-point ball. A big that was said to be working on it in the offseason and bringing it back to its best potential. Not shooting 3 or 4 or 5 threes a game, but shooting 2 to 3 and being consistent on them is not living up to his promises that he made for Phoenix. And fans, including myself, thought maybe Budenholzer could turn Jusuf Nurkic into this little bit of a Brook Lopez mold / build, and I think we kind of hyped ourselves up a little too much thinking of that, because honestly, Nurkic has not lived up to that potential. And even though Nurkic has dealt with some injuries throughout this while not living up to the potential, his stats when he's out there are just not great as well. Like I mentioned, and like I said with Jusuf Nurkic, we want to look at obviously some things. We can see obviously he's been dealing with some injuries. He had that left middle finger injury in the start of the preseason, which he was sidelined for a little bit, and he's been dealing with this ankle injury for a couple of games. And he's come back and played on it, then sat out, come back and played on it again, and then has sat out multiple games due to the ankle injury. And this is something to definitely keep an eye on, because it was ruled as a tweak, then it was ruled as a sprain, and it's something that could be lingering on with Jusuf Nurkic. And that's going to be very, very difficult, because if he's sitting out, he's not playing, then the Suns can't get any really trade value off of Jusuf Nurkic, which is going to be tough, because if we want to look at the Suns salary cap and the Suns roster, we all know that Jusuf Nurkic is making the 4th most money on this Phoenix Suns team at around $18 million. So if a player making around $18 million and supposed to be a key impact player for this team, is not performing and is not living up to the potential that they should be living up to at that money, it is a glaring issue, specifically for a team that started off red hot and now has started to kind of fall through the cracks after this 4-game skid with having some injuries and not being the best team out there with having the most healthiest bodies. It's obviously taken some beatdown. And you can say that obviously with these injuries, Nurkic is required to be a more X factor, to be a better player, to be more impactful. But honestly and unfortunately, even though that's the case, even when players like Beal and Durant and Booker were all healthy and all playing, it wasn't the case at all. We saw with Jusuf Nurkic, the one game that the Suns lost at the beginning of the year where they were up 20 points at halftime to the Lakers. He was the main caveat on why they lost that game, and he was the glaring issue for this Suns team as Anthony Davis feasted all over him. Then we saw through other multiple games where Nurkic had to get benched and other players looked better without him. And we've seen Mason Plumlee and Oso Ighodaro thrown into this lineup without Jusuf Nurkic being without injuries, and we've seen them excel and look better than Jusuf Nurkic. If we want to look at the stats, like I mentioned, let's dive into this. Like I said, looking over at Mason Plumlee, 5.3 points, 6.3 rebounds. He is playing pretty much up to what Jusuf Nurkic is doing better from the field goal percentage as well, shooting 58, obviously not taking any threes. But Plumlee, at 34 years old and on a veteran minimums contract, is playing better than starting center Jusuf Nurkic. And if you also want to look at this as well, want to look at the other center in Oso Ighodaro. Oso Ighodaro has also shown some glimpses. 4.6 points, 4.1 rebounds, zero point 0.6 assists on 64% shooting from the field and 80% from the free throw. Not shooting threes like Jusuf Nurkic is either, but Oso and Plumlee have both been able to showcase for Suns fans that they have some bright glimmer spots in them. Oso really showcasing over these last couple games how much he can be as an interior scorer for this Suns team. And I truly think if he puts on some size, puts on some weight, this man is going to be the key starting center for the Suns in the future. But Plumlee is also providing that center that can kind of do it all for the Suns and what they really brought him in for behind Drew Eubanks, to be that interior defender, to be that center that can go and get rebounds, block shots, and make the right play and pass. Not a center that's required to go out and score 20 or be a guy that's going to do it all and be jazzy. And Plumlee and Oso Ighodaro are living up to those, expectations. So in my opinion, I personally am out on Jusuf Nurkic. I was saying this kind of towards the beginning of the season. This was a player I was keeping an eye on alongside Josh Okogie to monitor and kind of look at their contracts, as they had some tradable ones, and to kind of say if they don't fit in, if they don't find a role here with Phoenix, to definitely move off of them. And for Nurkic, I think the writing is on the wall. We're about 20 games in, close to this season. He hasn't really been playing that much due to injuries. He's making a ton of money. He obviously hasn't been an impactful player for this Suns team in the last couple games, and the only games he really seemed to be an impactful player were versus the Dallas Mavericks, who ran a little bit of a smaller ball lineup. I think the writing's on the wall. If the Suns want to compete, they want to be a top-tier team in this Western Conference, they need to address the center position. And Plumlee and Ighodaro could be solid pieces for the future. Players you want to obviously bring back in Plumlee next season, and obviously continuing the development of Oso Ighodaro for the future seasons to be your full-time center. But I truly think if the Suns went out and looked to make a move for Jusuf Nurkic this season by the deadline, looking to try to trade him away, even if they went and got a backup center or went and got a player that could be a filler center for a couple seasons, or even a player that could be a solidified center at this very moment, but in a season or two could lose that spot to Ighodaro, is totally fine. I ultimately just want to see the Suns get off some money in Jusuf Nurkic and ultimately be able to get some winning pieces to add some culture. We've seen some mock trades, and I think that's something we can look to explore with Jusuf Nurkic as well. I've seen some online referring to some trades with Walker Kessler and Jordan Clarkson. I've already mentioned the trades of obviously Mitchell Robinson and possibly looking at Isaiah Stewart. So if you guys want to see some more breakdowns, some more look at that, drop some comments down below in the comment section. Let me know what you guys want to see over on the channel as well. Like I said, even though Jusuf Nurkic hasn't been that great for this Suns season, for this Suns team, there have been some bright spots for this squad, even though they've been on a 4-game skid. Like I mentioned, Ighodaro has and Ryan Dunn, the two rookies, have looked amazing. Josh Okogie has found himself a role within this Suns team off the bench, making some key impact plays, not only just shooting the basketball, but playing solid defensively. And we've also seen the rise of Tyus Jones as well. being that true, legitimate point guard and really delivering for this team. So, like I said, let me know what you think so far down below. I think if this team gets healthier, can get through some of these injuries and find some better role players to help make some tweaks, I ultimately think this Suns team will be squeaky clean and be a top tier contender in the West. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section, how you guys feel about this team, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, y'all.